So, I'm not gonna lie, I have been pushing this video off for a while because I really wanted to meditate on it and think about it, because to me, when it comes to personal callings and testimonies, it's a big deal. It really is. And so it was something that I wanted to make sure that I had my thoughts completely together and everything that I wanted to say done before I decided to make this. And thinking about it, I didn't want it to be a super formal video, and I understand that it's the final project, and I am taking this very seriously, but I kind of wanted to get used to being able to talk about my calling and talk about my testimony in an informal way, because I feel like that's very useful, and not that it's not, a very serious subject, but it's the fact that, I want to be able to share my calling with people in everyday conversation and be able to bring it up and tell them what I'm thinking. So that's kind of the direction that I wanted to go with this video. So without further ado, I'm Kirsten, I'm 19 years old, and I am from a small town in the middle of Michigan. And so I grew up in a pastor's home, which definitely shaped my worldview quite a bit. Being a pastor's kid, you get to see things and see different perspectives that, the average kid, apostolic kid, doesn't necessarily get to see. And, it's a lot of seeing behind the scenes work, seeing the different hard work that has to be poured into the church, and seeing the different problems and issues that might arise, and just really getting to see everything. And so it was really great because, like I said, it shaped my worldview a lot, and it allowed me to experience and understand things the way that I feel like not everyone is able to understand. And it definitely brought a lot of issues to light for me. And that was kind of the nice thing about it. There were hard days being a pastor's kid. You constantly feel like, either people don't understand you, they don't understand the struggles that you're going through. You feel like, sometimes you can't share things with your pastor because it's your mom and dad. But it also opened my eyes to a lot of things that I thought could be changed within the church, and a lot of things that, I wanted to see happen. And so that was the really awesome thing about it. And, with my testimony, I'm not going to go too in-depth about it because, everyone has a testimony. Everyone's been somewhere. Everyone's done something that they regret. Everyone's been delivered from something or kept from something. And I don't want to say that my testimony isn't special, but, it's something that I feel like a lot of people went through, growing up, being a high school student. You deal with struggles, you fall into things, you fall into sins that, you might not necessarily want to. But so kind of growing up, my testimony was kind of the fact that, when I was in high school, I got caught up in things that I probably shouldn't have been. And, thankfully the Lord got a hold of me. But that's not really what I want to talk about today, and even though that I'm super thankful for my testimony, I'm thankful to be where I am now, and I'm thankful that God delivered me from the things that he did. That's not really what I want to focus on. What I really want to focus on is my calling and what I see myself doing. So that's kind of where I want to go. The summer of 2017, I graduated high school, and I embarked on a missions trip to New Caledonia. You see, this mission trip was very small. There was only 8 of us, and then our chaperones. So there was only 10 people total on the trip. It was very, very small, and it was a very interesting trip. I had heard a lot of things from different people that had went on AYC and YOM trips about their different experiences, but the difference is they might have had like 30 to 60 people on their trip compared to me having 8 students and 2 adults. And so it was a very interesting experience, and I got to get involved a lot in hands-on stuff. I got to, share my testimony in services. I got to sing. I got to go into these villages and work with these children and see all these different aspects of what it's like on the missions field. And the thing about that is I knew that it was going to change my life, but I didn't know how much. And I remember on the last day of the missions trip, we were giving kind of our testimony and like what God had done for us during the trip. And I was giving my testimony, and all of a sudden I stopped, and I just felt God really speaking to me. And out of my mouth came, "I'm going to Bible college." Everyone kind of looked at me. My aunt and uncle actually happened to be the chaperones of the trip, and they kind of looked at me and they started getting tears in their eyes. And the thing is I was already registered for a secular college. I was already, paid my dorm maintenance fee, was about to move in like a month. And I just decided right then and there that like I no longer felt called to secular college, that I felt called to Bible college. So that I submitted my application 2 weeks later, got into Urshan, and here I am today. But the issue is that when I felt called to Bible college, I thought that was God saying that I was no longer called to a secular degree. And I thought that meant full-time ministry. Back when I was in secular college, I had actually started taking some classes. I was taking, different psych classes, social classes, because I felt really passionate about, like the counseling and psychology field, and I thought that was something that I was going to go into. But when I got called to Bible college, I thought that meant full-time ministry. So I registered as a Christian ministries major. I started taking these biblical classes. Well, after I found out that Urshan had the human services program, I just knew that it was confirmed that, this counseling, psychology, human services route really was for me, and that I could get an apostolic perspective from it. And so I was super excited, and I switched my major after my first year, and here I am in the human services program, absolutely loving it. And what I love the most is that it is an apostolic perspective. And I think the one thing for me that was always so big and made me so passionate about like human services is, especially coming from a pastor's home, I've seen such a need for apostolics that are in the human services field, specifically, counseling, psychology, social work. And I just feel a really big passion for that, because I feel like there's such taboo when it comes to mental health and things of that sort in the church. And the thing is we put our trust in physical doctors. We believe that God will heal us, but we're perfectly fine as apostolics and as Christians, going to the doctor when something's wrong with us. But I feel like there's such a taboo when it comes to seeking out mental health professions and seeking out counseling. And I just feel like it's such a taboo in the church, and that's something that I really wanted to change, and I want to see more apostolic perspective when it comes to counseling and psychology and social work in the church. So I just felt like there was really a lack of that, and that was something that I was really passionate about. And so I knew in that moment, like I still believe that there's a place for me in ministry. I love to speak. I feel passionate in different places, but I know that I'm most likely called to a secular job in being able to have that apostolic perspective in my workplace. So there are a few different directions that I feel really pulled to. And I understand I'm only 19 years old. I don't have to have my life completely together right now, but I know that there are a few things that I feel very passionate about. The first one being young girls. Knowing some of the things that I struggled with throughout high school, depression, anxiety, getting caught up with the wrong friends, getting caught up with the wrong boys, it made me very passionate about young girls and building self-esteem and building that security and building that hope and that joy and that peace. And so whatever avenue I go in the human services field, whether it is counseling, psychology, social work, I do want to somehow really get connected and work with young girls. And so that's something that I'm definitely very passionate about. I'm not sure exactly what, but I know that I would love to be able to empower them, equip them with the tools that they need to make it through this life as a young woman, and even beyond that as a young apostolic woman. So the second thing that I felt really passionate about as of lately is also very taboo in the church community, and that is talking about sexual education and talking about different things within that. I feel like everyone is talking about sex and sexuality except for the church, and that's something that I would really like to be able to change and be the change. And there are people that want to be able to seek help out for things like this, but they're scared and they feel like they're on the outside and they feel like they'll be judged and all this other stuff, and I really want to change that. And that's something that I know that not a lot of people necessarily think about, or they're too scared to talk about. But for me, it's something that I am very passionate about, and it's something that I would love to see change in the church, to where we're not too afraid to talk about it, and we're not too afraid to talk to our young people about it, and we're not too afraid to begin to explain things and give them an explanation why, and give them a background why, and help them through these things that they're really struggling with. Because sexuality and sexual sins is something that a lot of teenagers and young people in the church really struggle with. So that's something that I'm very passionate about. The third thing that I'm very passionate about, and that I would like to really be able to see a change in, is inner city gang and gun violence. And I didn't necessarily grow up around it, but it was always something that tugged on my heartstrings. And as I got older, having friends that came out of places like Detroit and Kansas City, and even meeting people here in inner city St. Louis, they don't have that hope, and they have that mentality, that they're gonna die young, and that if they want to survive, if they want to stay alive, if they want to make it in this world, they have to join gangs, or there has to be this violence, and there's this poverty. And it's something that I would really like to be able to reform. And I know that it wouldn't be an easy change, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. And I would love to devote my time and love and money and everything else to be able to try to find solutions towards this and try to work something out. And so, those are the three things that I feel very passionate about. Like I said, I'm not really sure what direction I want to go into, but I know that whatever I do, God has called me, and He'll equip me, and He'll open doors for me. And so I'm super excited about the future. I'm super excited to see where I'll go. I'm super excited to be in the human services field, and I just can't wait to see what the future holds. So thank you for listening.